Welcome, Dr. Lippitt.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
We appreciate your time. So first, to start off, could you tell us what was the motivation behind writing your book, Brilliant or Blunder, and what really motivated you to write this?
I think the biggest motivation was my desire to make sure that leaders are effective. I think that the cost of errors is so extreme these days in terms of, whether it's a Lehman Brothers or an Enron. If a leader really makes a blunder, it just doesn't impact his or her career. It impacts the whole organization. So I think that there was a desire really to help people make the smart decisions and make sure they don't fall for the pitfalls that we have found are popping up a little bit more often than normal.
Normal, absolutely. So now, how does this kind of looking at these mindsets different from other leadership, models that we have, or what kind of sets this apart?
Well, I think that what our traditional leadership models basically are looking at the leader as a personal characteristics such as integrity or courage. And then we had a period of time where we just focused on leadership style and then their competency, whether they knew how to do the job. But you'll notice that all three of those are looking at the person as the leader. And it's really not considering the context. It's not looking at the reality that leader's having to face and having to detect. And in addition, the leadership models traditionally have been sort of static. We're in a very fast-changing world, very competitive world, and we really need to add a dynamic factor to leadership so that nimble decisions are made in a timely manner. So I think that makes the big difference. It's not just the personal, it is a context, a situational awareness.
Okay, so how does the models kind of framework address that?
Well, what happens is that we have a tendency to rely on our past experience and our habit. So we usually look at just one or two things, and that's what we check, and we tend to make gut reactions. And from routine decisions, the gut, the intuition really works well. But when we're dealing with new situations, or when we're dealing with very system impact conditions, we really have to look at things from a comprehensive viewpoint. And that's where the 6 mindsets. It's sort of like asking you to do a panorama of all the things internal to the organization as well as external, and do that analysis before you make a decision. It's trying to step back and make sure that we actually do the detection work rather than just rushing to a solution.
So if you look at leadership from this kind of perspective, do you think that this is kind of changes the leader's role in the organization when you have this kind of more comprehensive approach?
Yes, particularly because in the past, the leader was supposed to be the all-knowledgeable person that if you had a question, you go to the leader, you get the answer. I mean, it was sort of like, a machine that you feed a question to and out pops an answer. And what's happening now is that a leader really cannot cope with all the complexities, and we need to have this kind of inclusion. And so actually the leader's role has changed from an answer provider to a question giver, and making sure that those questions get answered. So having the ability to ask the penetrating question is really where leadership has to go as we move forward into greater complexity, the international aspects, the quickness with which our competition landscape changes.
So I don't want to take too much more of your time, but I would like to know if there was one main takeaway for the students to have from this book, what would you want that to be?
I think I would like them to accept the idea that you have to be nimble by continually looking at the context. Again, people count, and I'm going to say all those other approaches to leadership definitely add value, but we really need to have a more dynamic approach, and one that's based on the reality that surrounds us so that we can make the brilliant decisions and avoid the pitfalls.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much for joining us, Dr.
pleasure.
Lippitt. We really appreciate your time. The book, Brilliant or Blunder, offers a new lens of leadership development targeting the results that leaders seek. While style and competencies are very important, goal orientation is as well. To read more about this, Brilliant or Blunder is available at Amazon.com.